Tuesday, October 25th, 2022, and I'm here at the Reyes Peak trailhead here on Pine Mountain, right near Reyes Peak here in the Padres National Forest in Ventura County, Southern California. It's time for a spotlight on shrubs video today. Today I want to focus on one of our currants, C-U-R-R-A-N-T. It's this beautiful shrub here. This is wax currant, and this is Reyes cereum, variety cereum. It is a generally low to sometimes medium growing shrub, maybe up to about 5 feet tall, sometimes occasionally a little bit taller. It's a lower, generally a lower thicket forming shrub. It's winter deciduous. As we are in late October, it is starting to shed its leaves, and it's a member of the Gooseberry family. It's gooseberry / currant family, the Grossulariaceae. So again, now that we're in October, the leaves are starting to shed off of this shrub, as it will be leafless for the winter, but it still has enough green foliage and fruit for me to feel good putting a spotlight on. So you can see here, this one's a low kind of a thicket, lots of multi-trunked thickets here of this shrub, and being that it's a currant in the genus Reyes, it is also related to the gooseberries. So what we have here are typically smaller leaves that are kind of lobed, sometimes making identifying this shrub a little more difficult from other species of Reyes, like Reyes nevadense, Reyes roesley, Sierra currant and gooseberry respectively, because the leaves are similar. They're kind of lobed. They're kind of have a rough sandpapery texture too. You see here. So they do have a little bit of pubescence on them, a little bit of fuzziness, and the texture, like I said, is kind of slightly rough. Not extremely hard, exactly like sandpaper, but it does have a little rough feel to it. And these shrubs are known for their waxy colored fruits. That's why we call it wax currant. And if we go over here, I can kind of show you, see if I can get up here this way, closer to where there's some smaller fruits on them. They're very, almost like a somewhat translucent red color. A lot of these are kind of starting to shrivel up because they're past their prime. As you can see here, they're kind of small, kind of reddish, orange. Usually a little plumper, a little bit larger usually. But you can kind of see there. So when they're fully ripe and they're plumpest, they tend to have a almost like a slightly translucent quality, like you can kind of see the light through them. And that's a characteristic here of wax currant. Now I can tell that this is wax currant as opposed to Sierra currant, because Sierra currant leaves are usually a little bit larger. They're very similarly shaped, but they have light bluish colored fruits when they ripen. So that's how I can kind of tell that this is wax currant versus that. And Sierra gooseberry, which also has somewhat similarly shaped leaves, but often more deeply lobed, is a low-growing prostrate growing shrub. It's kind of low-growing, like this little coffeeberry bush here. So wax currant is definitely upright like Sierra currant. Again, Sierra currant has the light bluish colored fruits, usually larger leaves, sometimes significantly larger leaves. Sometimes their leaves are actually quite large. So, and wax currant leaves tend to be a little bit smaller. So, I don't know if these are really supposed to be good to eat, like some other species of currant and gooseberry. I heard that they're supposed to not taste very good. I've never tried it. I'm not sure if their edibility as much. Other species of currants are edible and quite tasty, but I'm not sure about these ones. They're supposed to have that waxy coating on them, so I wouldn't personally try it unless you do more research on it, especially more research than I've done, but from what I've heard, they're not supposed to be the most pleasant to eat. So I personally wouldn't try it. But you're up here in the mountains, and they're usually found, I've mostly seen them above 6,000 feet. Well, I think almost exclusively above 6,000 feet, I think. At least in my experience. Right now, we're at an elevation of about 6,900 feet, between 6,900 and 7,000 feet right now at the Reyes Peak trailhead. But I've seen them up as high as over 9,000 feet. I've seen them in Angeles National Forest, like around Troop Peak. You'll see some up there, and along the way to Baden Powell, you'll see them up there above 8,000 and 9,000 feet. And typically, the wax currants, they tend to like openings in yellow pine forest, higher subalpine, lodgepole, and limber pine forest as well. Here, we're in a very open stand of Jeffrey pine and sugar pine. So these trees tend to typically provide habitat. A lot of times rocky river soil, and like I said, a lot of times if you find a disturbed patch of forest or an open patch, this would be a good place to find wax currant. So again, our variety here should be variety cereum. I don't know too much about the other varieties of Reyes cereum, so I'm sticking with Reyes cereum variety cereum. But now again, some of the lower leaves are a little bit larger, so you can kind of get an idea of the shape of these leaves. Again, some of them are, most of them have a little shallow lobation. Some of them, especially the ones on the outer edges of the twigs, tend to be more noticeably lobed. And the ones on the inside might be more shallowly lobed and larger. So now let's talk about the bark on the wax currant. Bark on wax currant, of course, looking here at the upper twigs, there's hints of grayish and hints of cherry reddish brown on the twigs. And it also translates to the larger branches that actually have these little quirky growths called lenticels growing along the stem. These little horizontal white lines are kind of like little tiny quirky growths. They're called lenticels. And then the bark becomes a little more grayish as you go down near the trunks. So we have a mostly smooth grayish bark with also some more lenticels. So mid to high elevation shrub. Pretty scattered occurrence here in the higher mountains here of Southern California. And look on the screen, I'll put the more visual specific range of this plant. But I do find it quite a bit when I'm in mid and higher elevation mountains. Here in the Los Padres National Forest, over here, over near Mount Pinos. It also grows near Mount Pinos, Sawmill Mountain, and near the Pino Alto campground on Mount Abel, aka Cerro Noroeste. That's another place where you find wax currant, right near the campground area. So, fall color on wax currant, we're talking about this being deciduous, shedding its leaves in fall and leafless in winter and leafing out in spring. Fall color is, in my experience, is usually kind of a dullish yellow, not extremely vibrant. Maybe out in the sun, maybe a little bit more, kind of where we are, but these ones tend to be dulling off. The edges of the leaves are starting to kind of brown and then just a little dull yellow. It's fairly typical for Reyes cereum, but there you have it. The beautiful wax currant, Reyes cereum, variety cereum. Right from here at the Reyes Peak trailhead in Los Padres National Forest. That will about do it for my Spotlight on Shrubs video. I appreciate you watching. And I hope you found this helpful in identifying yet more of our awesome flora here. And hopefully it inspires you to come out and check them out for yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another Spotlight on Shrubs, Spotlight on Trees, and Spotlight on Plants video.